Hello, I'm Kara Pack and this is my Module 1 for EDL 853. A little background information on myself. I am 35 years old. I have been divorced. I have two daughters, Reagan, who's 9 and in the 3rd grade, and Riley, who is 6 and in the 1st grade. I recently just got engaged, so that's been an exciting time for us. I have my bachelor's degree from Kansas State University in elementary education, and then I got my master's degree in elementary education from Mid-America Nazarene University. I have taught for 13 years in the same district at the same school, Oak Grove Elementary, which is in Turner Unified School District, which is located in Kansas City, Kansas. 12 of those years I was teaching 1st grade, and this year I moved up to 2nd grade, so this is my 1st year teaching 2nd grade. I actually attended Oak Grove Elementary as a kid, and I always said I wanted to be a teacher and go back and teach at the schools where I grew up, and thankfully I get to do that every day. And I have been super passionate the past, I would say, about 5 years with teacher leadership, just empowering teachers to take risks and to share their greatness with other teachers, and I've seen such a profound improvement, especially with myself and my own teaching through that now I'm ready to kind of take my sphere of influence a little wider, and that is why I'm seeking my building level endorsement for leadership. When I think about my current building and district, and as far as they're facilitating students with special needs, we have MTSS, so we do the multi-tier support system. We have a tier 1, we identify which kids are our tier 1, which are like our core kids, tier 2, tier 3, and then we have what some refer to as like a tier 4, which is our special ed program. We also use Fontes and Bunnell's LLI, Level Literacy Intervention, and this is for reading, and we benchmark the students, and we use this to find their leveled reading, and we do instruction and progress monitoring according to the LLI program. Teachers are expected to differentiate within their own classroom as well to meet these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 kiddos. This can be in flexible groupings, it can be done with your instructions, it can be done with assignments such as having differentiated choice boards or menu boards, which is something that my building is really trying to do this year. So that's been a fun process. We also have what's called our SIT team, our student improvement team, and this is the process that we go through to find interventions for students who are struggling or who have plateaued and not made very much growth. This team is made up of the homeroom teacher, a special ed teacher, the school psychologist, the principal, the vice principal, and then other resource teachers will come in depending on the student. For example, we might have our ELL teacher come in, or we might have the speech pathologist come on some students. It's a thinking tank. We brainstorm different interventions we might be able to try with students to see if we can find growth. If they start making progress, great, interventions worked, and we can keep going and we document that. If they're still struggling after a certain amount of time and we've tried a whole variety of things, then the team might make a recommendation for an evaluation to go on after that. We also have our kiddos who are on IEPs and those students who are on the 504 plans, and we follow those according to how they're written. And most of our support is pushed in. We try to keep those kids in the classroom as much as possible. However, they do receive some pull-out. Some students do. It's just depending on how their IEP is written. My personal critique of facilitating students with special needs, I have in the past worked really well with different SPED teachers, even having some co-teaching where they come in and teach within my room and we do co-teaching together, which was great. I also have a really strong working relationship with the paras in our building. I don't think they get enough credit and not really enough pay for all of the work that they do. Personally, as a teacher, I know that I couldn't do it without them, and so I hope that they always know how appreciated they are. I have been working really hard on my differentiation within my own classroom to make sure that the kids, both those kids who are challenging, are having a little bit of struggles, and also those high kiddos, making sure that I differentiate for those kids as well so that every student is getting what they need. The sit process, to be frank and honest, it hasn't always been great in my building, and I know there were a few years where I was a little hesitant to go through the process because it almost turned into a finger blaming game, and as a teacher, you didn't feel supported, you felt criticized. But thankfully, I would say this year we have a new principal, new leadership, and it's really come around. And now I know I've heard from a bunch of teachers and even myself who have gone through it this year that the process is so much better. It really is supposed to be there to help us as teachers and for us all to work together. And ultimately, the kids are who's they're gonna achieve because of that. I try to come up with different ways to provide accommodations or modifications to my assignments in the work so that it's at the students' learning level. I will say that I feel like my own personal lack of knowledge is on all of the legalities and the rules and the laws that come with SPED. And I know, like the professor said, she doesn't want to see our name on the news. And I see that all the time and I read about it. And I just know that I need to be more aware and do some more researching and making sure that I understand what my responsibilities are, not only as a teacher, but especially when I become the administrator. When I sign that IEP, exactly what I am signing for and that I'm responsible for it. My proposed plan is, first of all, there has to be open communication between the whole team when it comes to that kid. A classroom teacher who's not really sure, they have to be able to go ask the SPED teacher or the administration if they have a question and can't be afraid to ask those questions so that they don't get themselves in a tricky spot. If they're not sure about minutes being met or certain accommodations or modifications, they need to make sure that they feel comfortable asking. So we need to make sure that we have a risk-free environment, trust, so that we can have these conversations and not be afraid to ask questions. No matter how silly you might think it is, it's always better to ask than to just make an assumption. I would love to have more accessibility to my SPED teachers, to have them at our weekly PLC meetings that we have so that they're more on board of what we're doing, and that way we have more opportunities to have that communication and to ask those questions. I would provide more trainings for teachers, for paras, for everyone on how to correctly fill out that SIT paperwork when you're bringing a kid to SIT, and then just explaining the process so that we then can communicate it to parents appropriately. And I would love to take advantage of all the great technologies out there and see a little more integration of technology for those students with special needs. Some impact funding might have on it is resources cost money. Money for training, money to hire, the appropriate number of paras so that our numbers, student to teacher ratio or student to para ratio isn't quite so large. And the technology can be expensive that I'd like to incorporate. And then also another resource is time. Time for these trainings means you have to have funding for substitutes so that teachers and paras can go to these trainings. And then also being able to just juggle the schedule so that we're making sure that everybody's minutes are being accounted for and the students are getting what they need. So I look forward to learning with everybody this year. Thank you.